Can you say why America is the greatest country in the world?
It's not the greatest country in the world.
Finally, really did it. You maniac! I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore! You bring them death, and they will love him for it.
I say we take off and nuke the entire site from orbit. It's the only way to be sure.
Hello, friends and enemies, and welcome to another episode of Recovery from Politics Podcast. I am your host, Kyle Frame, and today is Wednesday, January 15th, 2025. So, the Quisling party sucks, but it's still our best hope to defeat MAGA in our lifetimes without bloodshed, and we have to hope that's possible. I know historically there really is only one way to deal with the fascists around us, but those countries don't really recover well. There's a scar that sits with them for a long time. Even now, we carry the scars of a civil war none of us were alive to witness, let alone participate in. There may come a time where even I say voting isn't enough and we the people have to take matters into our own hands, but we're not quite there. Yet. We're very close. But ultimately, it isn't up to us, or even the Quislings. It's up to MAGA. There's a chance MAGA is entirely ineffectual in their plans going forward. Maybe the almighty cheeseburger finally does its job and rids us of the Orange God King and Fluffer Vance becomes president. Fluffer Vance is someone MAGA doesn't really like so much as they tolerate him. He's an idiot, and MAGA will not unite behind him. You think Fluffer Vance has the juice to make a phone call to 2 House members to save Speaker Mike Johnson? If Fluffer Vance becomes president, the entire coalition falls apart. And most of the media and Quislings won't understand why. They always take the wrong lessons. In 2010, the Democrats took one of the worst beatings in electoral history. Their takeaway? Obamacare was an overreach. People really give a shit about the deficit. So they slashed spending still in the throes of an economic collapse and ran away from their signature legislation. What was the right take? That Obamacare and their earlier recovery law were insanely weak and half-assed fixes to massive problems, which depressed the turnout of their own base. Meanwhile, the right woke up to a black man as president, lost their fucking minds. Lifelong, career Republicans woke up to primary challenges. And for what? Not being racist enough to the black president. Even now, you'll have people defending the Quislings in their first 2 years for not taking the big swings because they did better than anticipated in the 22 midterms. There was no red wave! They'll yell as if that's a win. They still lost the House. They still didn't fix anything. There were 3 major issues verified by polling months prior to the election that the Quislings actively gaslit their voters on. 1. The economy. It's fine, actually. Biden was completely dumbfounded by the polls on the economy. Stock market up, unemployment down, wages higher. Didn't matter. The voters of this country still didn't feel great about the economy. Rather than trying to talk to any of us living in it, they just kept blaming the media for not polishing Biden's knob enough and told us the COVID broke our brains because the economy is the greatest in history. And by traditional metrics, they're not wrong. For most of my life, if you told me the incumbent was sitting on historic stock market gains, low unemployment, and rising wages, I'd say that president should be sailing to an easy re-election. The fact the alarm bells were ringing the entire time and they just kept yelling back at them says a lot. 2. Palestine. It's not a genocide. Why does everyone keep calling it a genocide? Rather than try and stop Israel and Netanyahu in any way, they sent cops after college students for having the audacity to have a smartphone that showed them IDF soldiers' own posts about murdering random Palestinians committing no crimes. God forbid. We were told to shut up, go back to class, and let the grown-ups do their jobs. Instead of putting conditions on aid to Israel, we banned TikTok instead. Then the United States government had the steel balls to go before the Supreme Court and tell everyone, we didn't ban TikTok for speech, we banned it for national security reasons. This, despite the fact zero evidence has been provided that shows TikTok did any of the things they're being accused of. This, despite Romney saying in an interview there was no motivation to ban TikTok until it showed Palestinians being slaughtered to its users. This, despite Temu being a Chinese company collecting your data and not being banned. If this was about national security and Americans' data in foreign hands, Temu should have been banned too. It was speech. The American government thought social media could brainwash people into believing there was a genocide when in fact there wasn't one. Bullshit. Dems ran away from Palestinians so hard they helped MAGA censure the only one in Congress. 3. Men's issues. Men are toxic. Tell a Quisling that men are in crisis right now and you're likely to be told you're just being misogynist because men rule the world. Bring up suicide rates and they're likely to tell you women are killing themselves too. It's both sidesism in reverse. You can't be for men and also be for women in their worldview. You can't address men's issues without being a toxic male yourself. For the first few weeks before Harris put him into a bunker, Tim Walz got the memo. He was the perfect anti-toxic male, and as soon as his poll numbers looked better than Harris's, they locked him up and threw away the key. And Kamala certainly wasn't going to go on stage and talk about male decline and why the Orange God King was a poison pill that they shouldn't put their trust into. Like it or not, the Orange God King addressed the concerns of these people. He's full of shit, but when faced with one candidate who is a liar, but who speaks about their issues, versus one candidate who refuses to acknowledge these issues even exist, are we really that shocked whom they voted for?
End of line.